Welcome to the budget show, Dr. Gulati. From the rural agriculture sector, what is your specific lookout for in the budget? What you will look out in?
In the agriculture part particularly, there are three biggest items as far as the expenditure is concerned. One is the food subsidy, which in 22-23 is likely to definitely cross 3 lakh crores. And then there is a fertilizer subsidy, which is likely to come somewhere between 2.25 to 2.5 lakh crores. And then there is a PM Kisan. These three are the biggest subsidies in the agri-food space. And although the Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana was extended up to December end, we don't know as on today, when we are talking, whether that will be extended further or next year, because next year is also a precursor to the election preparations of 2024. So whether that scheme will continue or not, if that scheme continues, then there is a major challenge in terms of how to finance it, from where to finance it. On the fertilizer subsidy, so far government has absorbed this subsidy, even when the gas prices has went through the roof globally, and the fertilizer budget, revised budget, will be more than double of what was originally budgeted in 22-23. We hope that situation will moderate and come down, but whether the government can think of rationalizing the fertilizer subsidy, because at present you have almost 90% subsidy on urea, whereas P and K are on the nutrient-based subsidy on per ton basis. Now, there is one thinking that we have been talking about for quite some long time, that you consolidate all this and turn it into a per hectare basis. But there are issues in implementation. How do you identify the owner, the tenant, and so on and so forth? So it requires a good preparation to do and switch over from this, the current system of subsidies, to direct benefit transfer to the farmers. I'm not sure whether the government is ready to bite the bullet on that. The third PM Kisan, hopefully it is likely to continue, whereas the original idea of this income support to the farmer was that you club all the subsidies, food, fertilizer, credit, insurance, and all the subsidies that you are giving to the farmers, and put it in one aggregate input subsidy support or input and output subsidy support, and give on whatever your criterion of selection to the targeted groups is. That has not happened. What has happened is that the PM Kisan is added on top of the existing set of subsidies. So it has increased the financial burden. How long the government can go on with that, I feel it will continue, and that will be another thing. But overall, I think there is a rationalization of subsidies that is needed, because we are spending much less on the investment part. Look at agriculture research and development. ICR budget in the union government's budget is not more than 8,000 crores. And we are ready to spend lakhs of crores on free food. So this doesn't gel well, because the sustainability of the food system and the productivity of the food system will come through investment in agriculture R&D, which has very, very high rates of return, investment in irrigation, and now investment in environmental protection within agriculture, not just for adaptation to climate change, but also mitigation part of it. You have to reduce the emissions, methane or nitrous oxide, and we can talk about that if there is time. But you cannot talk just about adaptation You have to talk about mitigation within the agricultural sector, both in the crop sector as well as the livestock sector. Livestock is actually a bigger emitter of greenhouse gas emissions, especially methane. So we need to find out resources for doing that. And if we keep on doing this subsidy business, which, Honorable Prime Minister has been saying the revdi culture, but the fact is the biggest revdi is the food subsidy to more than 800 million people. Now, whether 800 million people genuinely need that type of free food, I have my reservations on that. I will go with what Mr. Vajpayee had devised, the targeted food subsidy. For the Antodaya, you can give free, but then those who are in BPL, they should be charged half the procurement price, and those who are above the APL, they should be charged 90% of the MSP. So this pricing for the consumers needs to be linked with the prices of the farmers.
So one another challenge which we faced last year was the inflation part, the food inflation. We had seen a very high inflation of food, cereals, high inflation of cereal inflation is still high. In fact, they are not going down. Edible oils, oilseed inflation has come down. Pulses is still better than what was earlier. So do you think this scenario to continue in the coming years, cereals will be a problem? Because we know that if the PMGKY continues for another 3 months, there is absolutely no stock of grains to sustain that. And then there is the new crop of wheat which is coming, and if the crop is not as good as expected, there will be huge pressure on the new crop. Means prices aren't going to come down so very easily for wheat, at least for next. So how do you see the next scenarios developing, at least from the food inflation front?
Let me start with a positive note that the Honorable RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das said just a few days back, that hopefully the worst of inflation is behind us. Because whatever we are reading in terms of, this Russia-Ukraine conflict had created an eruption in global food prices, right? So it's not just the demand supply or the climate change. It was basically the energy costs and the lack of exports from Russia and Ukraine. Now, that type of an unknown in the system, we don't know. But to the extent we can see, the situation at present is not as bad. It had not gone totally out of control, right? Even the energy prices are now gradually coming down. Unless there is another major flashpoint, either within the Russia-Ukraine war or any other geopolitical crisis, or the heat wave again hits us very badly in March, we could lose something on that. So I personally feel, given business as usual under normal circumstances as we see them today, we are having inflation reasonably under control. It's not still the best that we would like to have.
So does this also call for a rethink on the various measures that were adopted to control this inflation? The stock limits, the banning of futures, the export bans that were undertaken in the last 6, 7, 8 months when this inflation started hitting post February 2022.
I would not suggest imposing stock limits and even the export control. Some filtering can be done, but we should move gradually in a calibrated manner towards opening up. Good thing was that the big increase in fertilizer cost has not been transmitted to the farmers fully. So that was absorbed by the government. So in that way, government can say that we are not, hurting you on the fertilizer side, but you also make some sacrifice by not getting the best possible international price that you can.
One big agenda or the one big item which struck the agriculture sector this time was obviously the GM mustard thing, the GI clearance. It is being, means it's not directly connected to budget, but definitely a very important issue with the agriculture sector. So it is being said in a lot of quarters that this is the answer to your edible oil import dependency problem, and it is being means there are a lot of ifs and buts. Do you think the time has now come to come out of all these discussions and move very strongly forward on a new technology path for seed at least?
As far as GM mustard is concerned, so long as GEAC has already given clearance to it, so on food safety, environmental safety, the clearance is there. I'm in support of that. Please go ahead. But it is a political call because some segments of society are opposing it, which is perfectly fine in a democratic country. You have all these checks and balances. But as far as my position is concerned, I'm in support of new technology, and GM mustard should go ahead. But will it solve the problem of edible oils economy? No, no way. Because we are importing 55 to 60% of our requirement. And mustard cannot be as competitive as palm oil is. Palm oil gives you 4 tons of oil per hectare. And mustard will give you how much? 400 kilograms of oil per hectare. It can go a little up with this productivity increase and all that. But it is nowhere near the palm oil, and that's the cheapest oil in the world.
It was really enriching to talk to you, Dr. Gulati, and
Thank you.
it was very great of you to share your views, and thanks for joining us for the show.
Thank you for having me.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.